Okay, welcome back. Last time we had a look at my favourite Pokemon from Generation 6, so that was Pokemon introduced in Pokemon X and Y. So today, we are moving on to Generation 7, which was the Pokemon introduced in Sun and Moon. And I'll be totally honest, there might be a few times in this when I just, go back and just kind of, adjust midway through, but we'll see how things go. So, first thing first, we have normal types. Also, Type Null and Silvally, I think they are technically counted as legendaries, so I'm just going to not include them. However, to be totally honest, Silvally then actually would become the... if it was available, it would technically be available for every single type, because of the RKS system, it would be able to do that. Anyway, whatever. So, I think my favourite normal type from Gen 7, I'll be honest, I don't really have much of an opinion on any of them, to be totally honest. I'm gonna say Komala, because it's like a kind of cute little koala thing. But honestly, I don't really know. I might come back and I might think about this a bit more as I go through. But for now, I'm just gonna say Komala. I remember it's pretty strong. I remember it being fairly powerful in-game. I remember Hau has one. And I remember being kind of caught off guard by it when it just suddenly has Earthquake. At I want to say a mid-level 30s or something. Anyway, moving on. Fire type. So, I might come back and change this depending on Poison type later. Because Salazzle will more than likely win for Poison type, but for now, I'm going to say Torracat. Now, there's a very specific reason why it's Torracat and not Incineroar, and that's very simply, I just don't like Incineroar very much. I know that may be kind of heresy, but genuinely, I didn't want Torracat to stand up. I would have preferred it if it had stayed as a quadrupedal tiger thing. I think it would have been cool. However, I do think Incineroar, they try something with it. I'm not a massive fan of it, but I'm glad that they at least try something with it. I remember when I first played Sun and Moon, I chose, Litten as my starter, because I usually use the Fire starter on my first playthrough. So I was really excited when I got Torracat, because I thought it looked really cool. And then I saw Incineroar, and I was just like, oh, well, that's kinda less cool, but well, I made do, and Incineroar was still on my team at the end of the game, because, well, I'm not going to drop my starter on my first playthrough. Anyway, moving on to water types. Gen 7 wasn't the best time for water types that I like, so this one's actually going to go to Primarina, which is the final evolution of Popplio. So, final evolution of the water starter. And yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for a couple of other Pokemon that I'll mention way later on, Primarina would actually make a very solid, it makes a very solid third place in terms of my favorite fairy type in Generation 7 as well. But yeah, I remember using Primarina in another playthrough. It's pretty strong, and I very much enjoyed having it on my team. It was a nice water type to have. Special mention to Wishiwashi for genuinely being what I believe to be the hardest fight in that entire game, because the Totem Wishiwashi did not mess around in Vanilla Sun and Moon. Genuinely, maybe it's because I didn't have an electric type or a grass type on my team, but that Wishiwashi fight, I genuinely believe to be the hardest fight in Sun and Moon. In Vanilla Sun and Moon. I should probably note, I never bothered playing Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, because I didn't like regular Sun and Moon all that much. But that is a thing for me to ramble about at another time. So, time to move on to grass types. And so here's the thing. I love Rowlet, I really do. I really like Decidueye. But they will get other chances with the flying type and ghost type respectively. Whereas Lurantis won't get another shot, and I love Lurantis. It is one of my favourite Gen 7 Pokemon, Like, not just in Grass type, it is genuinely just one of my favorite Pokemon from Gen 7. I remember fighting it as the Totem Pokemon, like Mallow's Trial, she has her Totem Lurantus. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Also, I like its shiny a whole lot where it just turns green. I think that kind of suits it a lot. Also, I really like shiny Torracat. Like, I like the I like the kind of how the shinies, like, I like the black and the white for the regular and the shiny Torracat. Like, I think it just looks kind of cool for both. Like, I think both look very cool. Also, I like how, like, the only thing that changes with a shiny Komala is, like, the little... What is it that it carries? Like, the log? The drum? I don't know what it is. Anyway, moving on to electric types. Gen 7 added, well, it added a few electric types. Now, Vikavolt might make it in, depending on... It might make it in for bugs, and Alolan Raichu might make it in for Psychic. But for now, I'm going to say Alolan Raichu. Like, depending on how Psychic goes, I might switch it around. And because I don't know, there might be a Psychic type that I just don't like. Like, there might just be no other Psychic types that I like in this gen. And then obviously I want to avoid doubling up where possible. But yeah, Alolan Raichu, it is basically everything I like about Raichu, but even cooler because it now has Psychic. Like, I like how it actually kind of works with the Surge Surfer static that it has, as how it kind of surfs on its tail as it floats, and also, you know, just getting Psychic is kind of nice. Psychic is a very nice typing. On top of that, it's an Electric Psychic type, which is a very unique typing. So it's got a unique typing, it's fast, and it's strong. Basically, it is a really solid pickup in addition to a team. So, moving on to Ice type. And this is a no-brainer. This is Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales, honestly, might be winning later for, gimmick form for the gen. Like, there's a couple of other things in contention there, but as far as Ice types are concerned, it is absolutely going to be Alolan Ninetales here. Like, Alolan Vulpix is also great, but obviously Ninetales is the evolved form, and therefore it's going to be the one I'm using on the team more. Crabominable is okay, and I don't dislike the Alolan Sandshrew and Sandslash. I do like how... I like how Alolan Sandshrew's... What's it even called? Like, its shell? Whatever it is. How it becomes like a little igloo. I think that's very cute, and I love that little design choice for it. Also, I have a shiny Alolan Ninetales, and I love the shade of, like, purple that it becomes. Like, I love that shiny. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so, now, moving on to Fighting type. Fighting type, man, I don't know what I'm gonna pick here. So, Crabominable, I never used in a playthrough, because honestly, you just get access to it way too late. It's like, you can get Crabrawler, like, right at the start of the game, but you can't get Crabominable until, like, right at the end. And also, it's just, like, really slow, which is, you know, not exactly what you want. Beware, I never used as one of those in a playthrough either. I'll be honest, the only one of these that I used in a playthrough was Kommo-o, and Kommo-o might win for Dragon type. So, I'm kind of just gonna have to go off, like, aesthetics and everything. And for that, I think I'm gonna have to give it to Beware. And I feel like Beware wins out, mostly just because how it is in the anime. Like, throughout the entire Sun and Moon anime, it's like, this Beware has basically just kidnapped Team Rocket. And there's one point in the anime where like, a Pheromosa, turns up, and this Beware just bodies this Pheromosa. It is a great little bit. Like, I don't know. Oh, anyway. And then Passimian, it's alright. And Kommo-o might win for Dragon types. I'll explain more about it when I get to Dragons. And then, obviously, Buzzwole and Pheromosa are out because they are Ultra Beasts, and Marshadow is out because it is a Mythical. Similarly, which is why I didn't count Tapu Koko, Xurkitree, or Zeraora for electric types, and so on and so forth. However, I will say, Zeraora is really cool, and so is Marshadow, to be honest. Okay, moving on to poison types. Honestly, this would be going to Naganadel, I think that's what it's called. Because, you know, I mentioned Poison Dragon in the last episode, when talking about Dragalge, but, like, Naganadel is what you really want with a Poison Dragon. Also, I'll just quickly add it real quick, because I love how when it's shiny, it turns into, like, a bee. I love that for it. That is fantastic. Okay, anyway, moving on. This is going to be Salazzle. Salazzle is super cool, it's really strong, it's really fast, and, you know, it is, you know, it does have a slight issue of being quad weak to ground, but it's really fast, it's really strong, it can poison steel types, and also, its shiny looks really cool. Oh, and I think the purple just kind of sticks out a lot with, I think the kind of like pinks and purples on it kind of stick out a lot more when it's shiny. Yeah, and yeah, Salazzle is definitely a winner from Gen 7. Honestly, it might make my top 5 for Gen. Like, I'd have to, like, look at it and organize it in such a way, but I feel like it might actually make top 5 for that Gen. And yeah, I remember using it in a couple of other playthroughs, and yeah, it basically became something I really relied on. When I didn't have, whatchamacallit, Torracat, sorry, Litten as my starter Pokemon. It kind of became my go-to fire type as well. Okay, moving on to the ground type. And I'll be honest, I have never used any of these in a playthrough, to be totally honest. Like, obviously, Zygarde is out because it's a legendary. I never used Alolan Diglett or Alolan Dugtrio. I never used Mudbray or Mudsdale. And I never used, Sandygast or Palossand. But I think I'm going to give it to Palossand, partially because I think the black sand on its shiny looks really cool. And also, just like, it's an absolutely amazing defensive wall as far as I can tell. It has a pretty solid typing with Ground Ghost. Water Compaction definitely helps it out a lot. And you can really just get a lot of annoyance and good stuff out of it. I say that I've never actually used one in a playthrough, and I don't know how it is on the competitive side of things. But then again, let's be real here. Looking at this entire thing so far, I think you can probably tell that I'm not someone who is all that interested in the competitive side of things. Because most of these are probably like low to mid tier at best. Anyway, moving on to flying types. And, okay, so I do really like all the forms of Oricorio. I love the idea that it goes into the 4 different forms depending on the island. It really kind of gives Alola a bit more personality, like, and how each island is very different in its own ways. So if I recall correctly, it's Electric on Melee, Psychic on Ula. No, it's Fire on Ula. It's Psychic on Arcala, and on Pony it's Ghost, I think? But that doesn't make any difference, and also Minior is fantastic. Like, I remember Minior having shields down, which actually does lead me to another question I've never had the answer to. How do you know when you find a shiny Minior? Like, if you missed the Shine Spark on it, how do you know it's a shiny? Because, like, you'd have to hit it once to, like, break the shell, which is when when you see, you know, the color for it. And the shiny version is it turns into, like, a black star. But, like, I don't know how that works. But that doesn't make any difference because the answer here is Rowlet. Because, let's be real, if Rowlet wasn't winning for grass type, it was winning for flying type. And I'm so glad Rowlet had part flying here, because I didn't want to leave out Lurantis, and I didn't want to have to leave out Rowlet. Special mention to Rowlet for its shiny, because when the game was new, like, before, like, the Pokemon Bank stuff was in, and I needed to finish the Pokedex, I got a Rowlet from the GTS, and then, you know, got some Rowlet eggs. I got a shiny in 4. I got a shiny in 4 Rowlet eggs, and that is still fantastic to me. I still love that even now. Okay, so now moving on to Psychic type. Okay, so what do we have here for Psychic types? We have we have an Oricorio, and Oranguru, then just Bruxish and a whole lot of legendaries. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually gonna put Raichu here, and I will switch over. I'll switch Vikavolt into the electric type slot, and I guess I'll go back. Vikavolt is a really weird case for a Pokemon. Like, I do like its design, and I think its shiny is kind of cool, how it becomes, like, you know, it becomes very, like, metallic. I think it looks cool. But, like, it's a weird case where I love how powerful it is, because it's got, like, what, base 145 special attack, but it's so slow. Like, genuinely, I feel like if Vikavolt had just better speed, I would like it a lot more. I mean, having said that, it's still my second favourite electric type in Gen 7, even after, excluding legendaries and stuff, after Alolan Raichu. So it's definitely doing something right, and I think it was pretty cool as a totem Pokemon as well. Like, I remember it being the totem for Sophocles' trial, and I don't remember ever having much difficulty with it, because obviously I always had, like, Incineroar or Salazzle or something. And, well, I also had another Pokemon that I'll be talking about fairly soon, actually. But yeah, whatchamacallit, Vikavolt is pretty cool. If I was allowing legendaries, Zeraora would definitely be in here, though. And honestly, I think a couple of other legendaries would be swooping in to take some places here as well. But anyway, moving on to bug types. And obviously, Vikavolt would be available here. So, but, you know, it's out. It's out because it is in with electric type. So now that narrows us down to Ribombee, Golisopod, or Araquanid. I never used Araquanid, but, you know, it's a giant water spider. Not a massive fan of that, you know, as opposed to giant lightning spider from Gen 5. Love Galvantula. And then, okay, Guzma is cool. I really like Guzma. He's probably my favorite character in Gen 7. I do not care for Golisopod. Like, I know that's kind of heresy. I know everyone likes Golisopod. I've just never really cared much for it. Like, honestly, it's just emergency exit. I hate the fact that it's a Pokemon that's just like, hey, it's gonna be a giant coward and run away as soon as it takes much damage. It's like, I understand what they're going for with it, I just never really liked it all that much, which means it's gonna be Ribombee. Ribombee, also a pretty strong argument for Fairy type, it's shiny, just turns it pink. And, yeah. Well, it gets Quiver Dance and Bug Buzz, and I think it gets Moonblast. I feel like it should probably get Moonblast, it's a Fairy type. And, yeah. Ribombee is another one of those Pokemon that's on here, but... okay, I'll be honest. Most of the Pokemon on here, I haven't used in playthroughs. Because, I'll be honest, I have played through Sun and Moon 3 or 4 times, I think? I know I did... yeah, I think it must have only been 3 times, because my 3DS broke halfway through my 4th playthrough. Because I know I'd done it playing with each of the starter Pokemon. Which actually reminds me, I still haven't done Sword and Shield with the 3rd playthrough. I need to go back and do that at some point. Also, as I previously mentioned, I haven't played Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, but I remember hearing people saying that the Totem Ribombee from Mina's trial, I remember people saying that was really hard. I mean, obviously I haven't played Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, so I can't really give much of a judgment on that. But yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. So it is now time to move on to rock types. And this is very simple, this is very cut and dry. The answer is Lycanroc, and the answer is all 3 of them. Like, I'm going to use the Midnight form as the one to represent it on here, but the answer is all 3 forms. Because, well, let's just say I played both Sun and Moon, and I used both Midday and Midnight Lycanroc in both games. Because, I'll be honest, it's... yeah, Lycanroc is easily a top 5. Lycanroc is easily a top 5, Gen 7 Pokemon. It's probably a top 5 rock type for me, just in general. However, I will say one thing that's always kind of thrown me off about Lycanroc is how it's presented in-game. Because, like, from what I recall, in Sun and Moon, you see it and it looks really big, especially its midnight form. Like, it looks like it would be really big and it's kind of like hunched over and everything. And then you actually see it, and then you see its Pokedex entry, and then you see it in Scarlet and Violet, and it's like, this thing's 3'11". This thing looks like it would be massive, and then it's actually like relatively small. But either way, that doesn't make any difference to me, because it's still one of my absolute favourite Pokemon from Generation 7. It's also one of those times where, like, I think I prefer all of the originals to their shinies. Like, I don't dislike the blues on it, but, like, I think I just prefer the original. I did not mean to highlight that, okay. That's not great, no. How do I fix this? There we go. Sorry about that for a second. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the blue for it. Also, no, we don't need to be seeing Gen 9 electric types just yet. No. There we go. We'll be talking about Gen 9 electric types when I get to Gen 9 electric types. Okay, moving on. Moving on to ghost types. So, Gen 7 introduced a few ghosts. And let's see here. So, yeah, it's... so, obviously, Palossand is out, because it's already there for ground type. The Oricorio is kinda cool. Lunala and Marshadow are out because they're legendaries. Blacephalon is out because it's an Ultra Beast. Dhelmise... I'll be honest, Dhelmise is a Pokemon that I always forget the typing for. I know it's some combination of Ghost... Steel, and Ground. Sorry, Ghost, Steel, and Grass. And I always just, like, mentally tell myself it's a Steel type. And it isn't, it's actually Ghost Grass. Which, to be fair, is a cool typing. See Trevenant, see Decidueye. Also, Alolan Marowak is also really cool. And this is where I come into a bit of an issue here. Because I don't want to double up on two evolutions from the same thing, but at the same time, they are, like, different enough that, like they do fundamentally change type. So I think I'm going to say Decidueye. Because, well, much like with Rowlet, I just love its kind of overall design. And I think it's based on, like, a form of extinct owl. Oh, and I love how it works with its kind of archery aesthetic. I remember... Actually, what's it called? I've forgotten what its special move is. It's a base, like, 80 ghost move, and it kind of stops you from switching out. It's a really cool move. And, yeah, I think it's just a cool kind of hunt owl type thing. And Decidueye is really cool. And now that I'm saying this, I shouldn't double up it. So, congratulations to Alolan Marowak for winning by default. I mean, to be fair, I feel like Alolan Marowak also kind of could have fit in. Like, Alolan Marowak would have been third place for Fire type as well, behind Salazzle and Torracat. Because I think it works so well with the kind of aesthetic and the culture of Alola. I feel like out of all of the Alolan forms, this one is the one that encapsulates Alola as a region the most. That's how it's got, like, how it's like the fire dancer to it. I think that is the most fitting of all of the Alola forms. For just all of the Pokemon. To be fair, I like most of the Alola forms. I think they are genuinely, like, really well thought out and cool. But I think Marowak is the coolest one. And also, you know, Fire Ghost is a really nice typing for it as well. It's also just nice to see another Pokemon just, that kind of fell by the wayside, get another chance. Because regular Marowak is cool, but it never really gets to do much, you know? Okay, anyway, moving on to Dragons. And honestly, it's kinda slim pickings here. I really do feel like Gen 7 kinda dropped the ball outside of its legendary dragons for the first time since, like, Gen 3. So in Gen 3, you had Altaria, which was okay. You had Flygon, which was cool. And then you had Salamence. Gen 4, well, Gen 4 didn't have many, but at least had Garchomp. And Gen 5, like, Gen 5 just kind of went with it. And, oh, I'll be honest, I completely, like, mentally blocked out Druddigon there, and I don't know why. I feel kind of bad about it. I used one in the playthrough, who I did, and Druddigon wasn't even that bad. Anyway, so, for Gen 7, Turtonator, I like the idea of Turtonator. I think its shell traps are kind of interesting. In terms of its Pokedex entry, I think Drampa is kind of cute and funny. Yeah, but, like, I remember Drampa's Pokedex entry is just like, yeah, if it, like, it'll befriend kids, and if it hears someone who's been bullying them, it'll just burn the guy's house down. It's like, I see. Bit weird, but okay. But, actually, I think I have to give this to Kommo-o, partially because it's the pseudo-legendary, partially because it's a cool fighting dragon type, and I don't think we've had another one since. Oh wait, have we had another fighting dragon since? I'm just going to quickly jump ahead to the next couple of gens to see. I do not think we have not had another fighting dragon type. So it's a unique typing that only Jangmo-o, Hakamo-o, and Kommo-o have. It also, much like with Alolan Marowak, it kind of fits the kind of aesthetic because it's got like the because like with all the scales and everything, I think it's meant to be like evocative of like Polynesian warriors and stuff. Which, to be fair, in a cool, like, you know, dragon, and it all works, and I think the scales with it are kind of cool. It's also got kind of nice stats, and its move pool's kind of interesting. I'm not a massive fan of its kind of just, like, pink and, like, weird shade of yellowish green shiny, though. But honestly, like, I don't know. Compared to the others, like, compared to, like, all the other pseudo-legendaries and stuff, I'm not the biggest fan of Kommo-o, but I don't really have a massive laundry list of complaints about it. Like, it's good, it just can't live up to some of the others, you know? Anyway, moving on to Dark-type. And this is dire. As someone who absolutely adores Dark-type, Gen 7 was kind of a dire time. And honestly, so basically my options here are Incineroar, Alolan Raticate, Alolan Persian, Greninja again, or Alolan Muk. I'm actually going to give this to Alolan Muk. Actually, I'll quickly show Alolan Grimer as well, because I love how the shiny version is just the regular colour screen for it. I love that idea. Similarly, Alolan Muk, that shiny, I think that shiny actually gets worse, but Alolan Muk is cool because, you know, Poison Dark is there's not many Pokemon with that typing. I can only think of, like, one or two of us with it. And by that I mean I can think of Drapion, because Drapion is really cool. Where is it? Drapion is really cool. Big fan of Drapion. And also Stunky and Skuntank. They both also have it. I think it also has an ability called like, Power of Alchemy. I don't remember what it does off the top of my head, but I remember that being like, really powerful. But in general, I feel like Gen 7 was kind of just a bad time to be a Dark-type enjoyer, unless you were also a Greninja enjoyer, or someone who played competitive, I imagine. Because I think Incineroar had an okay to good showing. I might be wrong. Someone correct me if I am wrong, please. And I'm actually going to use this time to pivot back to Lycanroc just for a minute. Because as much as I do love all three forms, and I need to actually put that back to the Midnight form, because I want that to be the one I use to represent it, because I played Moon first. So, I always thought it would be kind of cool if... Because, okay, back when I did the Gen 6 one, I mentioned that Pyroar and Heliolisk, and also Diggersby, also all just kind of had pointlessly their normal type thrown into them. I think it would have been kind of cool if we differentiated the Lycanrocs a bit. Like, maybe, I think this might make them a bit worse in a lot of ways. So, you know, here I am, suggesting a nerf for Pokemon that I really like, but here we are. Like, I think it would have been kind of cool if the midday form was, like, rock normal or something, and then, obviously, the midnight form, like, everything about it to me just kind of screams, this should be rock dark type. Like, I think it fits rock dark more than Tyranitar does. And then I'd say the dusk form, maybe give that, like, rock fighting type. I don't know. Or maybe even, like, rock steel or something with tough claws, I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to, well, steel type. And, well, congratulations to Togedemaru for basically winning by default. Because, actually, oh, hang on. It's not going to be the Dugtrio, it's not going to be any of the legendaries or the Ultra Beasts. Honestly, I kind of forgot that Meltan and Melmetal even existed. Like, man, those Pokemon... Like, those are Pokemon that I think basically everybody forgot about. But yeah, it's going to be either Togedemaru or Alolan Sandslash. And I think I'm going to give it to Togedemaru, because I think it's a good example of another Pikachu clone. Like, it's obviously that gen's one, and it's kind of cute. I like the idea for it. I forget exactly what it is though. Also, it's just a cute little ball. Oh, I like Togedemaru. Okay, not to say that I dislike Alolan Sandslash, but I like that it's kind of like an iceberg. I love how it actually, like, goes all in on its defenses. I mean, I say that, but, you know, it's quad weak with fighting and fire, which doesn't exactly help it. Slush Rush is a cool ability, though. Actually, now that I'm talking about it, I'm actually going to give this to the Alolan Sandslash. And what is its shiny looking like? That is not an amazing shiny. That is a really bad shiny, especially if you compare it to the normal Sandslash. So, like, that's normal Sandslash's shiny. That is such a good one. And where all the quills turn red, that's such a cool one. That's one of my favorites, actually. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna say that this belongs to... Like, it could go back and forth between Alolan Sandslash and Togedemaru. Honestly, if I was making this, like, an hour later, I might change my mind back. But anyway, it is now time to move on to Fairy types. Okay, so Fairy type, this is very simple, very cut and dry. It's Mimikyu. Like, I'm not gonna beat around the bush, I'm not gonna dance around it, it's Mimikyu. Mimikyu is another top 3. Like, it is a top 3 Alola Pokemon for me. I love everything about it, I love its lore, I love how it's a ghost fairy type. Like, genuinely, might be my favorite fairy type, just across the board. Like, Alolan Ninetales would have been second, and Primarina would have been third, with Ribombee probably in fourth. I kind of forgot Shinnok even existed here. But yeah, Mimikyu, Disguise is a really cool ability. Also, I do get a little bit of a laugh when it's just like, it takes the hit and then it's like, Mimikyu's Disguise, and just kind of just like flops over. I don't know why, but I find that so funny every single time. Like, it's pretty strong, it's pretty fast, I keep on calling it Illusion. I know that's Zoroark's ability. Disguise is a really cool ability, and I love the idea of it. This kind of, like, really scary Pokemon that's just like, hey, Pikachu's really popular. If I disguise myself as Pikachu, people will like me and I'll make friends. Like, I like the idea of it. I think it's, like, I think it's a very cute idea and take on it, and also, it's just really good. Like, I'm a big fan of Mimikyu. And yeah, top 3 Alola Pokemon for me. Moving on to the starter Pokemon. Now, this is a kind of weird case for me, because Rowlet is my favourite base form. Torracat is my favourite middle form. I like Popplio all the way through, but I like Decidueye most in the end. So this realistically could go anywhere, but I think I am going to give this to Rowlet. Popplio would be I think Popplio would be second though, but for now I'm going to say Rowlet. If I made this again tomorrow, I might switch it up to be Popplio, but for now I'm going to say Rowlet, for much reasons I already stated. I'm not a massive fan of Dartrix. I feel like the middle of the evolution line really kind of I feel like the middle evolution of it really drops the ball a bit, but picks it right back up with Decidueye. And also, I'm just a big fan of how it becomes a ghost type. Anyway, moving on to favourite gimmick form for the gen. And let's be real here, if I was allowing legendaries, Ultra Necrozma absolutely runs away with it. Partially just because of the name of its Z move, because the light that burns the sky, just like, that is money. That is such a cool name for a move. That is the final move of an anime. That is the final move of an anime villain, and I am here for it. However, legendaries aren't included, so this one is actually going to Alolan Ninetales. Okay, so I do think that Alolan Raichu, I love how it kind of fits with the surfer aesthetic for it, and I love how Alolan, also Alolan Exeggutor as well, Alolan Exeggutor and Alolan Marowak, they both fit in, like, the aesthetic and everything of the Alola region, but Alolan Ninetales is one of my favourite ice types and one of my favourite fairy types. It's just in general. So basically, when it comes down to personal preference as a Pokemon, it's Ninetales that wins. If I was going for, like, aesthetics and how it fits into the region as a specific regional form, I think Raichu, Marowak, or Exeggutor wins. Sorry Golem and Raticate and Persian and Dugtrio and Sandslash. Yeah, you are kind of just never gonna win here. And now for the legendaries. And this is where we get into a bit of where I have just a little bit of a quandary, really. I'm just gonna quickly scroll up a bit. So, this is where I have a bit of a quandary about it, because Zeraora is really cool. I like Zeraora a lot. But I also really like Marshadow. And I also like Solgaleo. And I also like Lunala. And I also like Silvally. So, here's how I'm gonna approach this. I think there's a favorite mythical down here. There is. Okay, cool. So, I'm going to leave out... And also, all these have just been regular legendaries so far. So, mythical will get its time down here when I do that episode, I suppose. And I think, based on the regular legendaries, I think I have to give this to Lunala. I do think its shiny also looks really cool. All the kind of like, I guess the kind of like red and the reds, the purples, and the blacks and everything. Everything just look really cool, kind of like Vampire Moon and everything. But I think just the general look of it, also Moongeist Beam is a really cool name for a move. And also, you know, it's just really cool. I really like Lunala. There's a reason why I picked Pokemon Moon as my initial playthrough, you know? And also, you know, Midnight Lycanroc definitely helped push that argument forward for me. But yeah, with that, we have now done the Pokemon of Alola. So yeah, we've now finished all of our Pokemon picks for the Alola region. Next time, we'll be moving on to Generation 8 and the Galar region for the Pokemon of Sword and Shield, which, there's, much like with this one, there's going to be a few really easy picks for me, and then a whole bunch of ones that are just, like, are kind of just there, because I don't really care about a lot of the Pokemon. But there are a few Pokemon in Gen 8 that I am a big fan of. So, as always, feel free to leave a comment or click any buttons down below if you feel so inclined. Feel free to tell me your favorites in the comments, or if you would like a kind of more in-depth explanation as to why I might like some of these or skipped over some of the others, I can also do that. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you all in the next one. Next one for the Gen 8 Pokemon. Okay, thanks for watching. Later.